And a very good morning to you. Welcome to K24 this morning. It's 8 on the nose right here in Nairobi. My name is Jeff Morte. Welcome to the show. And of course, if you're joining us for the first time, we look at the front pages of our dailies, look at the stories that you're waking up to, and then after that, discuss the pertinent issues as well affecting us. And we always say whether it be politically, socially, economically, or otherwise. Right now matters health already front and center as the world talks about the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. Yesterday, we saw very many Kenyans cautious of this being introduced in the country. We'll discuss the dynamics of the vaccine, where we stand as far as COVID-19 is concerned, and address any questions that you have. So as always, you can get me at I am Jeff Morte on Twitter or at K24 TV. The WhatsApp number also at the bottom of the screen. Taking us through that particular discussion, we will have the Deputy Director at the Kenya Medical Research Institute, Professor Matilda, just discussing this, debunking the myths, and telling us really what's the way forward on this particular issue as far as COVID-19 is concerned, and the good news going around the world as far as this particular vaccine as well is concerned. Before we do that though, let's look at the front pages of our dailies this morning as we get up. Front page of the PD. Governor's new bid to dodge graft cases. In one of the many radical proposals, county bosses advance principle of personal criminal culpability, saying they should not be punished for a mistake committed by somebody else. As you can see, this is some of the horse trading that is taking place as the principles of the BBI meet different stakeholders. Some of the issues that they had and the demands that they had as well on the front page of the PD, from gender to retirement to controlling of the budget, finances, and as well as corruption, as we've spoken about right there. This can be found in your copy of Your People Daily on page 4 therein. Also on the front page of the PD, you're bullying us. Teachers demand Magoha apology. Education CS kicks off storm after being caught on camera scolding senior ministry official in front of colleagues and primary school pupils. He's been described at times as a bull in a China room, but he says this is his style. He is firm. He's moving forward. Do they get an apology from this as a demand? You can find that story on page 6 of Your People Daily today. And as we look at that as well, this is on page 7, and it's a topic of discussion we'll be having on the show. Prepare for vaccine or miss out, expert warns. This is a story that's on page 7 of the People Daily. You can get all the details therein. And as you look at that, of course, don't forget you can get a copy of Your People Daily straight to your phone. It's only 10 shillings. The number that you dial is star 550 star 4 hash. Once again, the number star 550 star 4 hash. Dial that number and get yourself a copy of Your People Daily straight to your phone. It's brought to you by the PD and Safaricom. Front page of the Daily Nation now, BBI, Uhuru and Raila cornered. Governors and county assemblies, which are set to play a key role in the success of the referendum bill, have put out their wish list, but with a rider: meet our demands or else. Handshake partners giving county chiefs a meeting a wide berth. This should have happened yesterday, didn't take place. President Uhuru Kenyatta was in Nairobi launching the commuter train that was starting yesterday right here in Nairobi. And of course, the question begs how they move forward, how they deal with this particular horse trading. That can be found in your copy of your Daily Nation therein. Also in the Daily Nation, video of Magoha, quote-unquote, bullying Junior sparks outrage. Yet again, the teaching fraternity demanding an apology for what they term public humiliation of a senior education official in Uasin Gishu County. This video has since gone viral, and you can find that story on page 12 of your Daily Nation today. Front page of the Standard, season of blackmail, they call it, the BBI madhouse. Confusion and double-speak aplenty as politicians scramble for positions and influence in the handshake report. Elected leaders make outrageous demands to support reforms with little dividend for Mwananchi on the menu. As you can see right there, talking about what governors want, from all monies held by parastatals that perform devolved functions to be transferred to counties, IEBC functions devolved as well, so that elections are managed at a county level, not to be forced to appoint women as running mates, or men, depending on who's going to be running for the governor's post. Post of deputy ministers to be introduced and appointed from Parliament, not the county assemblies, and not to be held criminally responsible for loss or wastage of county resources. How far do they go in terms of changing this? We've heard even from the BBI Secretariat that they're not changing the document itself, just a bit of editorial issues that they can deal with, but the document itself stands firm. That is a story that you can get on page 4 and 5 of your Standard this morning. Front page of the Star, Haji. Kenyans stole 224 billion shillings in 3 years. 7 CSAs, PSAs, 11 governors, and 22 parastatal chiefs charged with corruption since 2017. President asks DPP to intensify anti-graft fight and go for the big-name thieves. This story is on page 4 and 5 of your Star. You can get all the details of that particular story therein. And finally, from page of the Business Daily, Cohen widow fights for home, dogs and Porsche. Sarah Wairimo launches fresh battle for properties including dogs after exclusion from husband's will. As you can see right there, the list of the properties under the Cohen estate, from his Kitusuru house, Porsche Cayenne, 2 dogs on this particular issue, and that is also up for dispute, as you can see with this particular case being filed in the courts. This story can be found in a copy of your Business Daily and plenty more therein. So those are the stories that you're waking up to right here on K24 this morning. But today we're talking to Professor Matilda, key issue of concern, Pfizer talking about a COVID vaccine that's 90% effective, as they say on this one. What does this mean for the ordinary Mwananchi, and how does it move forward? When do we get it? And for all of those Kenyans who are really cautious on taking this particular vaccine, what are the red flags they should be looking at? That's the discussion we're having right here on the show. Welcome aboard. This is K24 This Morning. Welcome back. So as I said, this particular conversation, having you to the very able expert on this particular issue, lots of research and journals read on this. I'll bring him on right now. He's a Deputy Director at the Kenya Medical Research Institute, Professor Matilda. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning. How are you? Oh, I'm fine myself.
Fantastic stuff. You know, it's been quite a while. Lots has happened. The last time we did have a conversation on the show, you were in studio. But things have changed. COVID has changed every dynamic of society.
Completely.
And even as we talk about this particular scenario and where it starts, I just want us to talk about what we're discussing and what the country is calling the COVID-19 second wave. Is it any different in severity of the virus itself as what we've seen with the first wave?
I don't think the issue is severity. I think the issue is the extent of the pandemic at this moment. I think what might have happened to us is that at some point we relaxed in terms of wearing masks, sanitizing our hands, and social distancing. We just went back to normal, whereas what we needed to do was to go back to the new normal. The consequences are that we are now seeing figures that we had hoped not to see. And of course, this is what is making people think that the virus is much more severe than it is. I doubt if it has mutated to an extent that it has become a totally new virus. That is probably not true. The issue is that we haven't really observed the measures that had helped us at the beginning.
Okay, and it's a good thing you point that out, because I think right off that question, you should probably debunk that. Are there different strains of the virus? Because another issue that is coming out in public discourse is the fact that now that there's international travel, probably the COVID that is coming from other countries and what we are taking out are totally different strains of the virus. Is there any science to prove that or debunk that as well?
At the moment, we are working on a lot of sequencing so that we can understand how different one virus is from another, from one person to another, from one location to another. Of course, we can find small differences, but I am yet to find somebody who has found a difference large enough to suggest that it's a totally new strain that is much more lethal, for instance. No, it's very early days. What we are looking at is just small changes in the virus as it moves from place to place and person to person.
Okay. Yesterday, of course, Kenya recording its highest number of fatalities as far as COVID-19 is concerned. And of course, that's where the issue is coming in, that now we're having younger people being infected at this particular point in time, and more deaths coming up. So once again, just for clarity, you feel it's a fact that we're not following the established guidelines. That's why more people are getting it, not the nature of the virus itself.
Yes, we are just not following the guidelines. Just where I pass every day when I'm going home, I just look through the window and nobody's wearing a mask at all. They don't care. I don't know what happened. Did people suddenly stop thinking that this thing is deadly? Or is it that people are yet to have the same perception as they had for HIV, where they said, oh, even in my family, I'm affected, okay? So maybe at this point, there are so many people who don't think that they are affected closely. That's why they really have this laissez-faire attitude. But it's a sad thing, and it's something that needs to be enforced.
As you look at this even moving forward, because the government on one hand is tightening measures as far as the Ministry of Health protocols are concerned, but also there seems to be a silver lining with Pfizer talking about a COVID-19 vaccine. Lots of questions being asked by those who are not in the medical or the science community on this particular vaccine. And more people asking the fact that with the typical vaccine, it takes quite a number of years before it's market ready. How is it possible to have this done in virtually less than a year and have it out for public use?
I think the nature of the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, has taken researchers and manufacturers and R&D teams to the drawing board, and they have approached this very, very differently. And one of the advantages that we have is that we have a lot of experience with developing vaccines over many decades. That is the research community. And what they did is that they began to compress the steps required to get an answer, whereas it will take many years for a normal vaccine to develop and come to market. You can see the impressive story like of Pfizer, bring a vaccine to the market within months. And I think that tells you that the world has significant capacity. It's only that the paradigm, the thinking paradigm has changed.
As we look at this as well, even as it stands at this particular point in time, for very many Kenyans who are cautious of this vaccine, and this is a debate that goes on not only for COVID, but we also had a lot of debate when it came to the tetanus vaccine and what it might portend for, when it's disbursed to the public. What would you tell them to assuage their concerns on this issue? What are the red flags even the members of the public should be checking as more and more vaccines are introduced to the market?
First of all, Kenyans have every right to be suspicious of products that are not developed in country. But you need to understand that Kenya has very robust mechanisms of looking at these products to see that they are safe and that they work. For instance, when you make a vaccine out there, it is necessary for you to bring it here so that we can check it amongst our people so that you can see whether it works, whether it's safe. So we cannot just bring it to market and start importing and putting in the shops and in the Ministry of Health. No. There are steps that are to be followed, clinical trials to ensure that it is safe before we give our people. Kenyans need to realize that there are very strong mechanisms for this kind of thing. It's difficult for you to just bring a product and start distributing. No.
Mm-hmm. And for very many who, as of last week, there's one of the dailies that carried a story talking about the fact that over 50% of Nairobi and Mombasa residents have already contracted COVID-19, and this might be the way forward in terms of herd immunity. Is that still a possibility? Is that an option in the cards, a population getting herd immunity?
The way we have learned, the thing that we've learned from coronavirus is that, first of all, remember, for you to have herd immunity, very large numbers of people, a very big percentage of people needs to be infected, okay? Mm-hmm. When you're infecting a very big percentage of people, you're also killing very many of them, and you're also putting very many of them in hospital. The price to pay for this theoretical herd immunity is not a price a country like Kenya can afford. I think the vaccine, if it works and is proven to be effective and preventative for coronavirus, is the thing that can really help us. I would be loath to support a suggestion that we should try to develop herd immunity. Too many of us are going to die. We can't afford it.
And on the other side of that particular coin, there's still very many people who think natural remedies, talking about the antiviral properties of ginger and other herbs, playing a key role. And that's why you're told when you exhibit some symptoms, take some dawa, lemon, honey, ginger. This might help. What's the science on this so far as well? Because now we've had the virus for a while and probably can track the correlation between these two properties and the virus.
I myself do take ginger and honey and so on, but I would like I'm just curious about how many Kenyans even know how ginger looks like. A very small percentage of Kenyans even know how ginger actually looks like. Forget about this thing. In medical science, if we wanted to know whether ginger, lemon, and honey work, would put them through some sort of experimental research, okay? We haven't done that. Many people feel, oh, when I take it, I feel better, or my flu disappears more quickly, and so on. It's nice to take these things, they taste nice, but remember, this is medical science we are talking, and at the moment, the thing that is on the table that is really attractive is a vaccine. And also recall that it's not the only vaccine that has reached advanced stages of development. There are at least 10 products I have looked at that are in advanced stages of development, and I'm hoping that more than one of these comes to fruition, so that as people, as Kenyans, Kenya is not a wealthy country, so it may not be at the head of the table at the moment, and the more the products we have out there, the more likely it is that we will be part of we'll benefit from these products as quickly as possible before coronavirus has a terrible, terrible impact.
And even as you look at this, there was news in the dailies about these clinical trials of vaccines happening in the country as well. I believe Oxford University was pioneering that. What's the status of that particular trial as Kenya is concerned? Because it was a real issue of concern that they're coming to try it here instead of in the West. Do we have any details on that, on how it's progressing so far?
First of all, you need to realize that the vaccine was tried in the West first. It was not tried in Kenya first. It was tried in the West, and they got results that looked promising, and therefore they decided to go and try it in other places to see whether they get the same effect. So there was a bit of misinformation there, and the Kenyans have a right to be a bit suspicious and so on. But Kenya has a very robust mechanism of looking at these things. At the moment, in fact, this kind of vaccine is in trial in Kenya. The Oxford vaccine is in trial here amongst health workers. Okay? But it was already tried elsewhere and proved safe, and we are hoping that it can prove efficacious. We wait and see with optimism.
Okay. I think that's a key point for very many Kenyans who've been wondering how this will move forward. So even as it stands at this particular point in time, we have this virus now. Is there any possibility of probably in the future having a situation where the only way out of this is the vaccine? As a scientist, is that the only way out? Because very many Kenyans, very many Africans, even when you go online, some people are saying probably we might be able to ride this one out. And as you said, it might be a costly price to pay, but get some sort of herd immunity. Is that something in the horizon, or is a vaccine the only way out of this scientifically?
First of all, when you say we might be able to ride it out, it's like riding on the back of a tiger. This is not the kind of thing you want to do. Before the vaccine comes, because it may take a year, 2 years before it gets to us. It may take many months. It may take a long time, because these are still products in development. And in any case, even after they say, let's say even in December, they say, oh, this is a good thing and we should start manufacturing. We are not at the head of the table. This is Kenya we are talking. There are some other countries at the head of the table. Then you remember, we are looking at billions of doses being developed for the world. So we are talking about time. Between now and that time, when we get the vaccine here, and remember also we want to try it here to see whether it works, we must protect ourselves. We must wear masks, sanitize, social distance religiously, because this thing can take a long time, and if we don't do that, many of us are going to be in bad trouble.
And as you look at this particular scenario where we still have to stick to those particular guidelines as is put in there, any word of advice that you'd give people who are in this particular space and time? Because even as you speak about home-based care and all of these issues that are put in place, it's hard for Kenyans trying to do this, especially with the issue of trying to get their livelihoods back up. That is a key issue of concern. I want you to speak to them as a scientist right now. What would you tell them? Because we are still trying to get that elusive balance of lives and livelihoods, and the livelihoods is winning because people are afraid of not having food on the table more than this COVID-19 that they still don't really wrap their minds around.
Yeah. So the one thing about corona that we know is that to a great extent, we as Kenyans or we as individuals have a bit of control over whether we contract it or not. We don't have perfect control because you don't know where you passed, where you walked through, what you touched, and so on. But we are able to a great extent, mask, sanitize our hands, social distance, but it's not perfect. But if we continue that way, it may be possible to achieve some level of economic advancement, but it will take a bit of time for us to get back to where we were. That's my opinion. People need to know that there is an individual contribution to the fight against coronavirus, and then there is the public health contribution. The public health component is trying very hard to bring a vaccine on the table, trying very hard to ensure that hospitals are stocked and people are getting oxygen and getting good care and so on. It's an interplay, and there is a bit of success we are having as Kenya at the moment, even though sometimes when you are affected as an individual, you may have a lot of pessimism. The fact of the matter is that the new normal for us might require that we continue in this way for a long time to come.
Okay, and even before I let you go, we have 3 or 4 minutes so on this. Another issue that has come up is the fact that before, on the onset of this particular virus in the country, the talk was that if you're at an advanced age, if you have comorbidities, there's a high likelihood of you getting it. Now we are seeing younger and younger people who are fit, who say they feel nothing, they are fine, also contracting the virus. Any science to why now we're having this happening now?
So the issue is not that if you are older or if you have a comorbidity like diabetes or hypertension, you could get the virus more easily. That was not the story. The story was that if you had a comorbidity or you are older or you're obese or something, you are likely to develop complications that younger, healthier people will not develop. In terms of contracting, anybody can contract coronavirus, old, young, and so on. It's only that the young, are a bit more protected. The fact of the matter is that even now we are seeing as more young people catch coronavirus, more young people are getting in trouble and more young people are getting hospitalized. This is a problem. And the issue again comes from the fact that you are not really, the young people are not as careful as they should be. They are not wearing masks. I mean, I'm looking, they're clubbing. That's the whole story behind bars and so on. And they're feeling a bit invincible. This is a problem.
And it's interesting because even as you talk about that, right now a very key point of concern is the schools as well. Having students back in school, them contracting this particular virus while in school, and parents are apprehensive on this. Even as you tell them to social distance and do all of these things, it might be the child who brings it back home. From where you stand as a parent, as a scientist, and from what we've seen around the world with schools being shut down again because of this, how do you deal with this particular aspect of life? Because you can choose whether or not to go to a bar. You can't really choose whether your child goes to school or not.
Now I'm speaking as a parent. And I've had my children in the house for like almost a year, and I've had it. You understand? I've just had it. Yeah. So I think one of the most difficult decisions a Ministry of Education Cabinet Secretary has had to make was to decide whether to open schools or not. What kind of balance one would strike? I think there are some things that work for us and some things that don't work for us. The things that work for us as a children weren't really as susceptible to serious illness or death as older people with comorbidities. So that was one thing. The other thing is that the school environment internally is a bit controlled. That's another thing. But on the other hand, there are teachers who are a bit older, and then there are children who will need to come back home like in December and so on. These are very difficult things that a person must think through, and there is no perfect solution. I know my friends and my colleagues who are against schools opening, and I myself was for them opening, just simply that I'd had enough of these people in my house. I mean, that's not science I'm talking as a parent now. I think so far, we have not seen a lot of dramatic new developments in schools with regard to the pandemic. This is a fact. We have not seen dramatic new developments. Like we have not seen significant mortality. No, we haven't. So I think on balance, maybe it was a good decision. But there are problems that we are facing in terms of infection rates in schools, and those are things we need to deal with on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, final question before I let you go, Prof, because even as it stands right now, very many African, very many Kenyan scientists are speaking about how we should also be thinking on how we can also make our own vaccines. When COVID-19 had just struck, we saw different pockets of the continents repurposing what they had, being the first ones to pioneer how they can make reagents. What would it take for us to have an African vaccine?
Oh, first of all is the mindset. Number two is the human resources. Number three is the infrastructure. Number four is translating the need of the world in the coming days to a product on the table. But the most important thing is the human resources, in my opinion, especially putting them together the way you normally do like a boot camp or like a skunk works, where you decide we are going to have a vaccine, we focus our attention on this thing. The way you said we want to go to the moon, and the people went to the moon. Same. Otherwise, we have experts even in country, and there is a bit of infrastructure here and there that you people can make vaccines with. That's what I want to say about this thing. You have to think differently. Otherwise, we can do it.
Okay, fantastic stuff. Last question before I let you go, Prof. You've said that, of course, there's a huge demand for this particular Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. You've already seen the UK taking, I think, 40 million doses of this. Realistically, when does it hit the continent? When does Kenya get it? 2021, 2022? From how you know these things working, when should Kenyans expect the doses to get to the country?
Difficult question, but I can assure it's not going to be December this year. It's probably not even going to be March next year. We are not at the head of the table. I would not even be surprised if the vaccine was not available to us in 2021. I wouldn't be. These things, first to manufacture billions of doses is crazy. Pfizer has to work with the bigger institutions, for instance, like the Serum Institute of India, to try to put these things on the table. Other players with other vaccines must come on board. It's going to take a bit of time. Yeah, I would be very surprised if it came here next year. I would be pleasantly surprised.
Wow. So best case scenario, 2022 is when we probably see it in Kenya.
I didn't say that myself. In fact, I wouldn't even be willing to say that we'll ever see it. I think you better just wear masks and be pessimistic so that when it comes, then you're happy. But I'm sure it's not going to come in the coming few months. Never. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
I know I sound pessimistic, but this is how the world works. Okay? This vaccine will be mopped up first by the developed countries, and then if they leave something behind kidogo, then us people in the developing world will share amongst ourselves. And even when we do that, when we share amongst ourselves, we'll ask ourselves, we have so few doses, should we give the elderly? Should we give health workers? Should we give those people with the comorbidities, or should we give everybody? These are difficult questions. Thank you.
Wow. When the cure brings more questions than answers, we'll wait to see how we can deal with that even as a country. Thank you so much for making time this morning, Prof. Asante sana. Continue the good work at Kemri as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Of course, in conversation right there with Professor Matilda. He's the Kemri Deputy Director, just trying to understand what this COVID-19 vaccine from Pfizer really means. He says he's really skeptical on it even getting to the country this year. Doubtful whether it gets here next year, but it's a wait and see, and emphasizes the only way around this right now is the proven 3: wash your hands, sanitize where you can, of course, wear your mask, and practice social distance. That brings us to the first break right here on K24 this morning. After the break, we now talk about matters corruption. The ODPP's office releasing their annual report yesterday on the state of affairs. That also making front page news in your dailies. We discuss that right here after the break.
Mrembo. Kuja.
Morning.
Amekuja na notes maka
Nani amekataza watu?
Welcome back to K24 this morning. This is the second half, of course, moving away from understanding the COVID-19. We're talking about something else that's eating this country up. It's all about matters corruption. Speaking of, by the way, there's a part of that in your copy of your People Daily. You can get your People Daily straight to your phone. It's only 10 shillings. And the number that you dial is *550*4#. Get a copy straight to your phone, brought to you by the PD and Safaricom. Let's get right to it. Right here in studio, joined by Charles Munyu. He's a governance expert. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning to you. How are you doing?
Welcome back to the show.
Asante sana. It's been a while, isn't it?
Yes, I've been seeing you've been busy moving around.
You have?
Yes, we've been wanting, we have to make sure we know our guests are okay,
that's
wherever
how
they
you
are.
explain not inviting. Don't worry.
But thank you for making
It's a
time
pleasure
this
being
morning.
here.
Asante sana.
Asante.
Gloria Oroba, she's also on the show, a youth policy analyst as well. Good morning.
Morning.
Karibu, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Today it's all about just fighting, understanding the fight against graft as where it stands right now. Let's look at what's on the front page of the Star. Haji, Kenyans stole 224 billion in 3 years. 7 CSAs, PSAs, 11 governors, 22 parastatal chiefs charged with corruption since 2017. This was courtesy of the annual report that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions gave yesterday, handed it to the President. The President asking the same thing that Kenyans have been asking for quite a while. We want the big names to be failed. We want that big money to be returned, not the accountant who stole 1 million shillings. Why are we still talking about that even now, Charles, when you have a situation where the President says he's adequately resourced the DPP's office, the DCI's office, it's for them to go out and execute?
Thank you. I think the fight against corruption is wide in scope. It's not about one issue. And one of the ways of fighting that, which I personally encouraged, was allowing Kinoti to scare these guys to death. I think that was working for me.
Is he still doing that? Is he still putting the fear of God in them?
Let me get there. He was scaring them. And there was a time corrupt people were really scared in this country. And it's only him who managed to do that as a person. Forget about even the institution that he's leading. And shortly after that, we started making noise about the arrests that happened on this or the other day. And of course, we need to be careful about how we go about some of these things. And then before you know it, there was talk that EACC should be the one focusing on matters, corruption and economic crimes. And before you knew it, much as is working, but I think the thugs out there are slightly more comfortable today than they were a few months ago. Call them Kinoti months, if you like. I think to me that was one of the ways of doing this. But of course, at the end of the day, like Haji said, and even the head of the EACC has said, at the end of the day, what we are looking for is essentially a return of what has been stolen. And I think if you look at the bigger picture is, we need to refocus our attention on how we go about this. I know there are small thugs out there, there are small little people in there, there are even facilitators, but until a time comes when we are able to recover what has been stolen, and more importantly, stem the possibility, slow down or even stop completely the opportunities that are availed to the individuals who are planning on stealing, until we put together that, then we'll still find ourselves mark timing on the same spot. So I think to me, what is really critical is, number one, of course, the two offices, like PBI has proposed, the office of the DCC, of the DCI, and of course the office of the ODPP, and by extension even the EACC, should be strengthened, especially in the fight against matters corruption. Okay. Yeah, and in so doing, then you'll find, and of course that cannot go without, again, the judiciary also being strengthened, being given serious facilitation, so that we can even have special courts even sitting at night and over the weekends. Okay. We can do all those things. And if we are able to do that, and then we have better practice directions from the judiciary, so that the time it takes for a matter of this nature to be concluded is way shorter than it is right now, then we'll find ourselves going somewhere. I'll be coming back to you speaking about exactly how we strengthen these institutions, because it is a key issue of concern. But Gloria, there's also the issue of perception, because Kenyans, when there was what he says, the Kinoti moment in time, we also had a Kamata Fridays. And you never knew as a key figure if this Friday you'll be spending it at home or in a jail cell.
And how effective were they?
And that's the question, because we saw it happen, but it was a lot of flash, less fire.
Yeah, and I think maybe we need to look at corruption holistically. And when I hear people talking about, let's focus on bringing back the money, let's focus on, giving bigger penalties and bigger fines, it's not about all that, because we have laws right now that should be terrifying us. But then there's a culture that as Kenyans, particularly in government, we have sort of cultivated because of the environment that government has actually effectively ensured that there is an environment where corruption thrives. So I think when we look at it holistically, you have to ask yourself, why are people, engaging in these corrupt behaviors. And when I'm talking about corruption, I'm not talking just about, kickbacks and the financial element of it, but talk about patronage, talk about nepotism. Those are also forms of corruption. Talk about having to, it's called institutional corruption as well. So when you go to certain services, government services that should be very easy to access, there's so much bureaucracy and there's so much, it's not transparent in how you need to attain a certificate or a permit or something. So the environment that has actually been encouraged in government is there. It makes it a conducive environment for corruption to thrive. Mm-hmm. So for instance, if I'm a Kenyan who actually doesn't want to participate in corruption, but I find myself in either the immigration offices or at NTSA or all these other places where you need to access government services, but the processes that have been put in place are so difficult, so bureaucratic, so opaque, and it's creates this perception that now the public servant that is sitting there holds the autonomy on how, how we are going to deal with this. So I think if we start looking at graft holistically, then we might be able to, get some headway. It's not just about getting back the money that the people, because if it was about getting back the money, that means that if I steal, for instance, the KEMSA scandal or the COVID billionaires or the managed equipment services, that means if I start seeing that they're about to catch up with me and I show up and I say, okay, you know what, here's the money back, does that make it okay? Is that what we are aiming for, or are we actually trying to engage our state officers and actually all governments and public services to a point where we are cutting out the culture of corruption? Right. Yeah.
Charles, what do you want to respond on that?
We need the big guys. The 224 billion is not because someone bribed some officer at immigration. The 224 billion is huge money. If we get that money back, we'll have gone, places. And I think this is a time we need to appreciate that there are big thieves in this country. And there are small thieves. And if we don't do that, we keep talking about that person who has bribed a policeman with 20. And I know it is not good. I know BBI is talking about matters, ethos, that which informs our culture, our ethics and all that, and that needs to happen. But we are talking about the big corruption here that has eaten this country to death. And if we don't do something about it, we keep blaming ourselves and saying there is this, that there is the other one that needs to be done. Incidentally, the ASECA, Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, allows EACC to actually have a discussion with someone who has taken our money. And if they agree, then they don't even need to be prosecuted, because at the end of the day, what we want to recover, plus the interest therein, if there is interest therein. And that's how we resolve some of these things. And I can tell you a lot of people have done that. They've gone in there, discussed, said, yeah, I participated in this particular process in this way. This was my role. These are the other guys that were involved in this. And then I'm willing to return what I got plus this, that was the interest therein. And that's a law. That is there. Because that's what happens everywhere. What I'm trying to say is, if we take for granted the Kinoti movement, which should be augmented by a lot of other movements, including inculcating a culture of people, young people who are hardworking, including even having the same in our curriculum, all the way up to the top, from bottom to the top, including the elders, when we are talking about the passage, the rite of passage, churches and everything. It is, like she said, it's holistic. We cannot look at one thing. But currently we have thieves that are running this country amok. We have cartels that we have identified. In fact, even BBI is saying we need to have this connected with a special unit of the NIS to purely deal with cartels, because the 224, my brother, is about serious organized crime in this country. Okay, and that needs dealing with in a very special way.
Let's actually talk about that. Before we move forward, I just want to ask this question. When you say they are big thieves, if you look at these big thieves that we're actually trying to draw their attention to, they're there because of nepotism, patronage, because certain things that we are trying to avoid, like that's just a little form of corruption. That's what brings them to office. So that's why I'm saying...
So you feel it's the 50 bob bribe that births the 50 billion shilling
I feel
bribe.
As though, first of all, if these people were not in office, we wouldn't be saying they're big thieves. They're only in office because they're relatives of certain people. They are loyalists to certain politicians, or they have, you know, they're not in there because of their skills or their qualifications and things like. So when you start from how we are appointing those state officers, then you come to realize that's the reason they're still walking around. Because, you know, the managed equipment services, if you look at that committee and the report that was given to the Senate, they actually mentioned the certain names, and they're still walking around.
You know, Jeff, we must stop getting fixated. The reality is we have responsibilities also as Kenyans. We have this ability to sit back, lean back literally, and say it is those people that are in those offices. When we literally put those people in office, you put the president in office, you put the governors in office, you put the MPs that are supposed to oversight in office, you put MCAs, women representatives in office. And of course, by extension, when you put the president in, you also put the cabinet.
No,
because the cabinet is appointed by the and more importantly,
exactly.
the cabinet is approved by the National Assembly. So the MP you put in place in there who approves just anyone, and we are not talking about any administration in particular. We're just saying Kenyans must take responsibility. And I think that's why, in the wisdom of Kenyans out there, they propose that over and above the rights, they must be accompanied by responsibility, including the responsibility to fight corruption, yourself, the responsibility to vote in the right person. You know, you don't just sit back and say, you know, they're in those offices, they are doing their thing, let them, you know, that this because of this one who is related to this one, who was related by this one and nominated by this one. And I'm not talking about specifically what my sister is saying, because this is a talk out there. We have a habit of saying, wataendelea kuiba. We bring in an institution, we crash the institution instead of encouraging an institution like the DCI, not even Kinoti himself, the DCI, the office of the DPP that is doing so much. Instead of supporting that office, we crash it by this argument or the other one because of political expediency. We have EACC, then we have... So we are saying as Kenyans, let us take responsibility and appreciate that until this fight is successful. It does not matter who we blame or who is to blame or what is supposed to happen. We must participate in ensuring this succeeds.
Okay, I want us to move it forward from how this corruption happens to where we are right now, because it has happened. The report says, as you saw, 224 billion shillings since 2017 only that has gone out. And when you speak about the Kinoti moment, when, you know, there was that fear of God in these particular individuals, that was quickly, after that, we had this rivalry going on, or so it seemed, between the DCI and the DPP's office, and finger pointing as to why these cases can't be concluded successfully. It's an evidence issue. We're not collating enough evidence right there. It's a prosecution issue. Is that where things fell apart? When these two were working together, we had some momentum moving forward, and now it's just finger pointing between the very institutions that should be working together to fight corruption.
I think the multi-agency team is not just about George Kinoti or the DCI, as it were, and the ODPP. There are a lot of other institutions involved, including the NIS, the KRA. We are talking about asset recovery. There are a lot of them in there. And you've had even asset recovery having a small issue here with the ODPP over small this and the other one. But I think what is important at the end of the day, this MOT, the multi-agency, MAT has held together. The multi-agency team has held together. And the successes we are seeing is because of that. And I think in their own respective ways, all these individuals heading those institutions are trying their best to ensure at their own level they are doing what needs to happen so that they can be able to support the whole wheel as a cog. You are able to support the whole wheel so that the vehicle, the wheel moves. So to me, that might have contributed a little bit to slowing down. But remember, it is Kenyans, and especially the political class, that said, no, we cannot be arrested on Friday. And we saw very senior Kenyans again, extremely well educated, saying, actually, we have no business arresting an average big thief on Friday. Let us arrest them on Monday after they've gone to church on Sunday and prayed, because they are very important and very good people. But the other person out there, the 50 bob one, arrest them on Thursday. If you're able to skip to get away with one day that you can hold them 24 hours, actually have them over the weekend. Okay. I think what we are trying to say is the MAT, the multi-agency team, is doing a very good job. And remember now, as we speak, as we sit here, you can be able to have assets that you cannot be able to explain that look like proceeds of crime or proceeds of crime in the eyes of the law recovered even before the criminal proceedings are concluded. And I think that is a major achievement, that you've seen people's monies being held or even confiscated, as it were, at minimum being preserved until the criminal proceedings are concluded, and so that whatever you have stolen and you cannot be able to explain, you're not getting away with it. Of course, we have so many pieces of legislation that needs harmonizing. fighting corruption. They need harmonizing and organizing so that they funnel to conclude in these matters properly. But again, that is a bigger picture. What needs to happen right now is a return of that fear of being corrupt. Okay. I think that needs to happen.
Gloria, let's talk about the legislations and what is in the BBI. I can see you have your copy right there. And notes to go with it as well. And as these deals take place, we have the principals meeting various stakeholders to find out their concerns on the document. Something interesting the governors mooted yesterday is when it comes to the issue of culpability of who's supposed to do the time for the crime. And as always, they'll always say they're not the chief accounting officer. It's my, CEC in charge of this. If it's a CS, it's my PS in charge of that. What's your take on that one, that it's the chief accounting officer who should take the blame, not the person at the very top?
You see, even the angle they're trying to use, that's what I was talking about. When you look at corruption holistically, when you look at the argument that they're trying to put at the table is that because we don't have clear guidelines or responsibilities of who does what and where where it stops, yeah? So, of course, everyone right now with this Building Bridges initiative is trying to get something in it for them. They're thinking of their future. They're assuming that we're even going to elect them back in office. And I like what Charles has said, that we should take, as Kenyans, we should take responsibility on who we elect. But that's the most that we can do. We will take the responsibility on who we elect, and we will go and vote in our MPs, we'll go and we'll whoever, and we'll even vote in the president. Personally, I did not vote for President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Deputy President William Ruto. I did not. But then now we end up with these leaders. So what we expect, and actually what I was hoping that the Building Bridges initiative would address, is the gaps that we currently have. Because when I'm done giving my vote at the ballot, after that, I don't have any influence in which cabinet the president actually puts in place. I'm actually relying on these appointments. I'm relying on the approvals from the National Assembly. I'm relying, even just look at our ambassadors. I don't have any, you can't say that, you're the one who elected the president and therefore in extension, you're the one who put this very corrupt cabinet secretary in office. That's not true. So I feel as though the Building Bridges initiative, if it was to come in and add value to our existing policies, our existing laws, it's just looking at the gaps of, okay, at this moment, this is what happens. In order for you to become an ambassador, your name is nominated, it goes to this procedure, but then we've realized that the president or whoever is actually appointing his friends from St. Mary's. So how do we deal with that? Because that's really, the reality is that is what we have. So how do we deal with that? And I was expecting BBI would then come in and say, actually, to ensure that we are not going to be, awarding patronage or awarding or pushing or creating an environment that is encouraging nepotism or encouraging, this awarding people who did your campaign for you and now you're thinking, where do I, put them? Let me just drop them in an embassy somewhere. I was hoping that they would come up now with saying, in our attempts to deal with the corruption that we have seen is not being dealt with our current laws, this is what we now put in place. For appointments, because we have noted that most of the corrupt people are actually corrupt because they know that they have godfathers, because they know they have uncles, they know they have relatives who are in high power. This is what we are going to do. You cannot appoint ABCD. So the Building Bridges initiative, what it does, it addresses corruption from an angle of the financial and monetary element only. They're saying that if you're a politician or if you're a state officer and you're going to contribute anything over 50,000 to any function, then it has to be done electronically so we can be able to trace where you got that money. They're saying that if you are appointed, you have 30 days for you to declare, these are your assets and this is to publicly put what you own out there. So they're really just looking at the financial element, but they're not telling me how I ensure that even if I vote for William Ruto, I want to make sure William Ruto doesn't bring the whole of Sugoi to his cabinet. Okay. So tell me about that. Or they're not talking about, now we want to propose the Youth Commission. If the Youth Commission comes into play and Raila Odinga wins, I don't want to see Winnie Odinga leading the Youth Commission. You understand what I mean? Those are the things that we are currently dealing with on a form of institutional environment that is promoting corruption, and that is what I would like to have a conversation about. Not about calling the COVID billionaires and the nieces and nephews and so and tell them, sit down, umeiba 30 billion to share 28, ingine tutaweka KRA. No, because then you're still encouraging people to steal so that if they are caught, then they can return a small amount of it. I mean, if I make just 1 billion out of the 30 billion that I've stolen, I'm still good. You get what I mean?
Charles, I want to come to you on this. We have 5 minutes to go.
This is a lot of information from my system. But number one,
I also want us to move it forward because we
Yes.
have 5 minutes. And there's something interesting in this particular report that was given yesterday.
Yes.
The Director of Public Prosecutions was saying some of the challenges they faced, you've mentioned it, resourcing as well, and also how to deal with complex financial crimes or complex
Yes.
crimes.
Yes.
And one case in point that I bring back every single time here on the show, Chicken Gate.
yes,
We had players in the UK and Kenyan citizens doing the same thing, being prosecuted for the same crime. In the UK, they have served their time, they have paid back their money, they've been released from prison. And right here, we're still going around in circles. Is it a political will issue? Is it a resource issue? We don't know how to prosecute this type of crime?
we do know how to prosecute these issues these issues, and I will talk about that in just 1 minute. Kindly allow me to tell my sister here that the face of the executive must reflect the face of Kenya. What you find and that's a provision in the Constitution in Article 130. You cannot appoint your sisters and brothers, all of them, into cabinet. In fact, if BBI was implemented today, the current leader of majority would not be prime minister because he's Kikuyu and the president is Kikuyu. That's a reality. Even the deputy prime ministers would not be Kikuyu. And they would not be Kalenjin because the deputy president is Kalenjin. That's a reality, but that's a reality for another day.
The other,
it does.
Yeah, but not patronage. Or
at the end of the day, someone must become a minister. Someone must become a cabinet principal secretary. The other issue that needs talking to or addressing, because I think it's also really key, is the aspect of Kenyans saying they have nothing after they have voted. The reality is Article 1 of the Constitution gives you all the powers to even remove that cabinet minister by way of a petition, by picketing, by all those things. And the MP who vets these people that you are nominated for appointment by the president are also individuals that have been voted in by yourself. So
then
you
why
have
has it
you
been
have
so difficult
that's what
to
I'm saying.
remove
That's what I'm saying.
Magoha?
That's what I'm saying.
Let's be alive on the
Let my
reality.
sister tell me that she has actually attempted to remove an MP, her MP, because the MP has not tried to remove this minister or the other minister. Because that's what Kenyans like doing. They like saying we cannot do anything. If your MP is not removing or even attempting to remove someone, then you have a right under Article 1, which gives you sovereign authority to actually remove that MP, to recall him, or at least at minimum petition that this minister gets removed. Okay. In the meantime, on the issue of the challenges that or the different jurisdictions and how they deal with issues, I think it's clear that the judiciary needs enhancing. It needs support. It needs working on.
Independence as well.
And of course independence.
Yes.
That's a fact. And I think the current judiciary is relatively quite independent, if you ask me, to a large extent. But again, we must also be reminded very quickly, it's not like the judiciary is made up of saints. That's a fact. So if corruption cuts across, even a judiciary has suffered the same. And I think the reality and something that needs to be accepted is that even the practice directions, look at even how we deal with matters corruption. Do you know it takes shorter time to deal with matters corruption than it takes to deal with other manners of crime because of the kind of practice directions and the special codes that are in place? But we are saying they are not sufficient. They are not enough. We need to have slightly more resources, actually more resources, so that we can have special magistrate courts to deal with these issues at all times so that we dispense with some of these things in good time. Again, what the good ODP, Director of Public Prosecution, has said. Remember, we are working on a forensic lab in our place here. If I tell you to go and get a Huduma number so that I can have your fingerprint, so that in the event you touch my car in an attempt to remove something, if that fingerprint is picked and, checked against, your data in there, it will show it was Jeff who was trying to do these things. You tell Kenyans that, they'll tell you, no, Huduma number. And my sister here will be the first one. You're collecting this information so that you can do this, the other one. The thing is, we need this. You cannot have a forensic lab. No, I'm telling you the truth is, if you want to go tech, if we want to go technology, so that we're able to resolve some of these things in good time, we need to amend our laws so that even in terms of the Evidence Act, the acceptability of some of these things is provided for. Today, you take a photo of someone committing a crime, the first thing the lawyer for that particular person will do is fight that is not admissible because who took this photo, where was it taken, photos can be edited, all those things. We need to work on our laws. We need to work on our procedures. We need to, empower our judiciary. We need to also harmonize the statutes that we have in there so that we are able to achieve what we set out to achieve.
Okay, we have a minute or so to go before we wind this up.
At least we agree on one thing. We need to work on the independence of the judiciary.
Right.
Because we have enough laws, we have enough policies, we have enough institutions that are here to deal with corruption. And what I think is lacking, personally, is we need to empower the judiciary. Empowering them means giving them enough resources for them to be able to collect admissible evidence, just as you said, for them to be able to say, by the time we are calling you in, that's Kamata Friday, we are not just calling you in for show, we actually have enough substantial evidence that we can convict you in a couple of weeks or so. So we don't even need new policies to guide us on, 2 weeks to conviction or 3 weeks, which is what BBI is proposing, because we have enough, because we have enough laws and we have enough procedures. The only thing we are refusing to do is empower the judiciary. The only thing we are refusing to do, and I actually believe there's not enough goodwill from our president, because something like the managed equipment services, there is a report that was tabled at the Senate. There's enough evidence to at least start with that process of getting to convictions. And of course, what we see is a lot of, behind the scenes, and that's what I now call the system. Behind the scenes negotiations, what can you bring back, sit down, get off, and there's no goodwill. So as long as we don't have that goodwill, you can add all sorts of things. You can add all sorts of laws, institutions. We can even create another institution in the police force just to deal with corruption. But then there's no goodwill, so we'll end up doing this circle of going round and round. And what we lack is just the goodwill and the independence of the judiciary, which, by the way, is being tampered in by the proposal on BBI, saying that they need to now make that sort of being controlled by the executive.
Jeff, allow me to respond to that. Because I think it's not fair.
The
office of the Judiciary Ombudsman actually exists even today.
Under the DCJ.
Under the Deputy Chief Justice. The office of the Ombudsman responsibility is purely to fast-track dispute issues.
But who appoints?
And just a minute. The Chief Justice himself, the President of the Judiciary, is appointed by the President. Just allow me. The President of the Judiciary himself, the Chief Justice, is an appointee of the President. But does he hold brief for the President in as far as you're concerned? Does he work like he's holding brief for the President? The point is, the report of the Ombudsman goes to the Judicial Service Commission for implementation. The issues that have been discovered in there, whether it's about the DCJ, whether it's about the CJ himself who is the president, go to the Judicial Service Commission from an independent angle so that they can look at it and implement. And that office will have investigated. And I think that's a reality. Again, on BBI and matters corruption, just one tiny one. Just on BBI and matters corruption, it is a wide-ranging issues. And the first one being issues of ethics. Amongst our children from very early ages, where we inculcate in curriculum, it's about protection of witnesses. It's about a huge issue of digitization. It's not just one issue of financing. Kindly, and Jeff be calling me when we have sufficient time.
And that we shall do, Charles.
And then I will need someone to help me manage my sister here, so that I also able to communicate next time.
Thank you so much. My goodness, that's why we wind up as far as our newspaper review is concerned. Very fiery as we go to the tail end of it. Many thanks, Charles Munye, for making time this morning.
Karibu sana, my brother. It's always a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Don't forget, you can get yourself a copy of your People Daily. Find out some of the issues that they are very heatedly talking about right there. It's only 10 shillings to your phone, the number that you dial, *550 *4#. We take a short break. We're back on the other side as we get interactive. Good morning. And I hope. Chini ya man.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you.
Chini ya maji inakula inakwangu. Let's do this. A very good morning to you and welcome to K84 this morning. This is the fun part of the show. We call it interactive. Not the other parts are not fun. It's just that this is the funniest. Fun. Okay, the point is it's awesome. And this is the part that is, that makes it more awesome. My name is Mungala Mbuvi, and of course I'm having the gango in the place. Maybe they can help me define this particular moment. Starting with Jeff Morte, the man with the plan. Should we call it awesome, the funniest, the funnest?
I was just seated here watching you digging that hole.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not that the others are not fun, not that the rest of the station's programming is not fun.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say,
Yeah. I was trying to pull Donald Trump. This is the funniest, funliest
ever.
part of the show. It is the best.
Wow, the Trump, man. Hey, the drama on that side also absolutely crazy. But have you guys seen how Nairobi weather is just disgusting?
First of all,
I walked to the window and I was like, yikes.
Yeah.
I know. Shiko, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Leo nimepata umekula sausage zangu mbili, but you know what? Sija take offense.
But at least uko na hizo zingine tatu.
Exactly.
Zimebakia ma-
Because your
actually
target is 5 every day.
Ni saba leo. But all I'm saying is, Shiko, mambo.
Poa.
Nakapoa na kuka kichwa kako,
Oh,
ako
really?
kanywele.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Asante sana.
Yeah, so what do we call that? Do we call it a crown? Do we call
It's
it
just a ponytail. So today our stylist
How is that
decided...
a ponytail?
How's that a ponytail though,
It
Shiko?
is.
You're lying.
It's a bun.
Okay, is it a ponytail or a bun?
Either or.
Or a
it's
pony
fine.
bun?
Okay.
Bun pony?
Yeah?
It's a
A
bun.
bunny tail?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
today they decided to just, make me at least a little bit younger.
Right.
I think they've cut out 5 years.
Nice. A big shout out to my mom who's watching, and she's saying that you
big
guys are
shout out.
looking absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
Amesema hiyo nywele ya Shiko, umwambie salonist wako ni nani. That's some nice, natural, good looking hair.
Like, for real, for real.
Yeah. Alafu Jeff ameuliza hiyo tai ulitoa wapi, anataka kunibea
Okay,
moja
now I know
kayo.
movie is just making this stuff up as we go.
Yes, Mbuvi,
Anyway, and of
Mbuvi
course,
the most.
a big shout out to everyone who's watching. Can we just see if we have any guys
Good,
or
it's good to
ladies
check.
as well?
It's good to
Gentlemen and ladies watching us via WhatsApp. Jeff,
Okay.
salimia huyu.
Let us do this then. Good morning, G3. Anita from Narok. Have a great day ahead. Shiko, I love your dress.
Yeah, you see, Shiko, I mean, everyone is just like, oh, your dress, your hair, and there she is, kissing you, yani. Yeah, hata nivae miwani ndo nione hizi makiss vipoa. Aya, director, kuna kiss ingine? I see kiss.
Not a kiss.
Hello, Nikiza from Bomet. Bomet iko represent G3 Fireworks. Nice, good stuff. Lakini umsea to watch ana ako kwa cyber. Jeff jamaa ako kwa cyber alafu
labda na stream. Labda na stream.
Hata wale wanakwanga huko nje kwa mamiti tunajuanga tu yani roho safi to watch. Alafu tunatambia looking great guys. Na uko hapo unaangalia Yahoo Mail. Good morning, beautiful people watching with my sister. The show is fire, babe.
People still have Yahoo accounts.
That's what I was about to ask, man.
Okay.
That and Hotmail should have died a long time ago.
Let me tell you, I actually have a Hotmail account.
I
also have a Yahoo account, which is more or less my Facebook account, like my username for my Facebook.
Yeah.
So you guys don't have Yahoo?
No?
We only have Yahoo boys.
Yes, from Nigeria.
The Nigerians, Yahoo boys.
The Yahoo boys.
You need to join the Yahoo side of life.
Yeah.
Hi guys, show ikomwa help wish Haka Galdem happy birthday. Ni Ann Katesh tuned from exclusive barbershop. Tukiwa na Baba Ben, Jeff na Mbuvi Day mukam for massage.
Hey, and there's the masseuse.
Wewe na massage
Mbuvi. Abujubuju on your way home.
Abujubuju anasema kama tunawezana na yeye. Jeff unaje tushie na Abujubuju.
Actually it's funny because hii weekend nafaa kwenda hizo sides za Central. I don't know.
All right.
I would die if that actually is not the woman who's giving the massage when you arrive. Please make sure you take a picture.
Fikapo upate ni nani?
Nani?
You know, we're not getting there.
Let's see.
Let's see. Movie.
Love your look, Shiko. Love your look, Shiko. Well.
Thank you.
Oh. Baka meka to love hearts up like. Okay. Sawa. Nani mwingine anatutizama? Na tizama akiwa wapi? Okay.
Well, filter. Hi, good morning. Ni Maxi kutoka Nax. This is definitely Mad Max. Look at that bullet shot. Wow.
Oh, you see mawe imetupa kwa windscreen?
Also, he was in a house.
Oh my God, Shiko.
Yeah.
Salimia Jero and Abby.
Morning, G3, Jero and Abby, watching from Kitui. You are our breakfast. If we miss the show, we have to take painkillers.
Hey, Jero and Abby.
Hey.
It's a bit extreme.
Do not take the painkillers. We are here. We are here. Relax.
I wish I was my own painkiller on a Monday morning when I'm having a honey. Okay, hi G3, watching from Mwihoko. Shiko, your hair is lit. Moving, alafu hiyo zero hapo ni ya Jeff. Hiyo ni zero mani O. Of which haja kumention, so sijui vile nitataja hiyo.
I think alikuwa nataka kutaja like the other camera person. This
papa.
So alikaanza alafu, you know.
And where is he?
You should be the one telling us. I mean,
this is the one on the mixer today.
Last we checked, he was going home in your car. So whatever happened between here
while you were removing your sweater.
Back, we don't know.
When you were removing your sweater and...
Hey, Tommaso wants to say hi, guys. Okay, can we move on to Tommaso from Nax? Okay. And he says his new crush to Shiko, Shoiko Lit. Okay.
Does he know that this is on the mixer? Odis akiamua anaweza weka CNN sahi.
Evidently he does not. Tuanze kuona Trump.
Yeah. Odis akiamua ati mkiapa Shiko my crush. Mtashtukia tu this is CNN. Hi G3s, you people looking great. Movie, who's your suit designer? That suit on point. Shiko Abujubuju. It's Mike and Brayo watching from Kamukunji. Well, my suit was tailored. My suit was tailored by Just City Wear. You can actually find them on my timeline. I keep on tagging them all the time. And I'll actually tag them today, so make sure you follow them. And if you want, they can hook you up with a very nice suit. Si pesa mingi sana. Lazima tu mkwe WhatsApp page moja na Grand Mula. All right, moving on swiftly, guys. Guess what? K24 is celebrating 1 million YouTube subscribers, and it's all thanks to you guys. All those pictures, videos that we put up on our social media, and you guys keep on liking and following. It is for that reason that we are actually celebrating 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Of course, you guys have been watching our social hours, following up on the stories, even after we are off air. So thank you very much watching our newspaper reviews after we're off air and all our news bulletins na kila kitu manzi. Asante tena sana. You guys are the bombest. Shiko Kaitani, how does that make you feel?
There, now you know.
Okay. Jeff Morris.
Well, at least that guy who was in the cyber movie,
yes,
you can see what he was doing.
Oh, he was watching us on YouTube.
He's part of the 1 million. So please take your comments back.
Okay, I take them back. Thank you very much for helping us reach 1 million. And you know, sometimes people might just think, see 1 million too, see Al Jazeera wako 56 million. Trust me, it's actually a big deal. And thanks to you guys, at least we know that we're making an impact, and we do appreciate you. So keep on subscribing, share with your friends, and also help us reach to as many people as possible, because what we like doing here is not only entertaining you guys, but we hope that we do change lives, especially through our very many conversations, both online, I mean on air rather, and online.
So when YouTube is actually sending out the, you know, the money that's earned from your subscribers,
yes,
inagawiwa, like, are we...
That's like a phase.
Are we going the cash that's coming from YouTube? Like kila mtu from Alan, Shiro, me, you.
I don't know. Maybe that's a question we need to pose to our CEO.
All right.
So, Mr. Ken Gario, if you're watching, please let us know. If tukipata hiyo do, hiyo 1 million subscribers, so simkile mtu anasaidia kupata shilingi moja moja.
Kuna YouTube allowance kwa payslip.
Shiko anapata ngapi kwa hiyo do?
Yes.
Jeff anapata ngapi kwa hiyo do? And most importantly, mimi ninapata ngapi? Hao wengine hata wasipopata, mimi ninapata ngapi? Thank you very much. I'll be waiting for your email. Hopefully it's not a dismissal email.
Because that could do.
Yeah, that's very possible. Anyway, let's get on to our first story.
Okay.
Senator Ladama flouts, standing orders, and he actually did show up in Parliament wearing some very nice attire. Now, he flouted the House standing orders by walking into the chambers dressed in his traditional Maasai attire. According to Parliament standing orders on dressing code, members, press officers, and guests shall not enter the chamber or lounges, dining, or committee rooms without being properly dressed. Proper dress code in the case refers to putting on a coat, a tie, long-sleeved shirt, long trousers, socks, and shoes or service uniform for men, and decent formal or business wear for women. But, as you can see there, we had a Moran in the house. You guy, my guy. Jeff Mote, and actually the senator, the Senate Speaker, rather, Kenneth Lusaka, did allow Senator Ledama to get in looking the way he is right now, and business was conducted in the house.
I like that. I'm all for it, by the way, because when you think about it, the traditions that we have, and it's funny because I was talking to one of our camera people yesterday.
Yeah.
I saw him in a tie, in a shirt and tie.
And
I was, not to this, Papa. Or this had gone home with
Nathan.
Shiko. Not Nathan.
Okay.
Nathan, you know, Nathan comes to work in shorts.
Joffrey.
Not Joffrey either. Joffrey comes in Niger. In Niger wear.
Hey, you guys.
So none of those.
Okay.
I think it was Wangugi who was actually in a shirt and tie.
All right.
And I was like, why? Because you never see them like that. And he said, oh, because you have to go to Parliament and you know how we dress. And it's brought an interesting conversation because this type of dressing is just directly from our colonizers. You know, that's how they dress in the August House.
Right.
In the United Kingdom.
In Lancaster.
And that's why we're doing it here as well. So when the speaker says, you know what, even if you come in your traditional attire, it is fine, because I see nothing wrong in Senate. This is how our parliament should actually look like.
But Shiko, because you're a woman, you know, there are parts of our culture as Kenyans where women actually, you know, just have maybe a marimba dress and then shanga and nothing else. No bra, nothing. Akuna vango, nothing.
The idea obviously is to, you know, keep the culture alive but not to distract people in the house. So I don't think that would be advisable. Atakama, it's part of your culture.
Because there are women like Akina Naisula or Topanasmama who conduct business and then someone is like, order, 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 order.
And she